fans, and welcome to another edition of Silver Screams. Today we are talking about Gravity Falls Season 2, Episode 13.
Is it?
Yes!
Sure!
Yes!
Dungeons, and more dungeons.
Which is just so precious.
See, I love D&D, I play D&D, so whenever someone pulls out an episode like this, I'm always like, alright, let's see what you got. And let's see if anyone who actually plays D&D is on the writing staff for this, and lo and behold, they're really super wordy.
For me, a lot of times, episodes like this definitely kind of are both like a loving send-up for D&D, but are also 100% like self-deprecating.
Oh, yeah.
And this was that 100%. It reminded me a lot of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles D&D episode that they had. Which was also making a lot of Lord of the Rings jokes because Samwise.
Well, the continual arguments always, it's a game for nerds, it's a game for nerds. It's like, no, it's actually fun and you make stuff up.
I've never played.
It actually is a lot of fun.
I will take your word for it.
Well, you should get involved. We're getting a group together.
I will take your word for it.
Commenters tell her she needs to get involved. It's a wonderful game.
This episode basically sums up all of my feelings on D&D because there's part of me that's like, that totally looks like fun. That's totally something I would get into. And then it shows Mabel and Grunkle Stan's reactions of... And actually, I will
believe me, the game is a lot more death muffins than it is prime numbers between X, Y, and Z.
I will
believe me.
I do have a story because I don't want to be disingenuous and say that I love D&D because I don't. But that's because I've genuinely never played. One time, my friend and I, when I was in 6th grade, we found her brother's D&D board and rule book, and we were like, hey, let's play. I've heard about this game, it could be fun. We tried to read the rule book, and when it sounded like trying to read articles for the Constitution and trying to read law article, yeah, no, we basically gave up and just started playing with the little pieces, and that is forever colored my D&D perceptions, and I'm always like, no, I will never play that game because that rule book is this thick, and
you know, it's the DM's job to know it. It's like a dictionary. You don't sit down and read the whole thing cover to cover unless you're Matilda and you're bored.
One of us had to know. And also, we didn't know what a DM was.
Yeah, well, maybe drop the impression from over a decade ago and
like 15 years.
Yeah.
Like that.
Oh yeah. Last time I played, I've never actually played with a board and figurines, but I have played. Our DM was an improv comedian. That went super well. But that actually did go pretty well. That was hilarious.
But there's part of me that's willing to totally give it a chance because we watched an improv group do a D&D comedy show for weeks and weeks, and they were hilarious and fantastic.
Actually involving dice, and the DM has a wonderful sense of humor.
And I will actually link an episode because they did record one and they put it up online. So I will actually link that in the description below so you guys can kind of understand what we're talking about. That wasn't their best episode by far, but it was like just so you guys get an idea. Anyway, let's talk about this episode.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to give a little bit of D&D because, again, I'm not a D&D fan, but I appreciate when shows do stuff like this because I do like fantasy. So this episode, Dipper gets a game of Dungeons and Dungeons and Dungeons.
Dungeons, and more dungeons.
And no one will play with him. You know what we didn't check?
What did we
didn't check whether or not who the voice...
Whether it was... You're right. Okay, I looked that up.
You go ahead and give the episode summary.
They refused to play with him because it is a nerd game, and Great Uncle Ford has sequestered himself in the basement because normal people can't be involved in this, and it's too dangerous, and it's terrible, and... You know, poor Dipper is suffering from a terrible case of unfulfilled hero worship, so that's not going super well for him. He loses his 38-sided dice, which I would love to see this actually happen because how the hell do you execute that? It's an awful polyhedral. But he loses his 38-sided dice under the porch, which has Seuss was here, help, I think I'm stuck, written under it, which is a really good touch. And it gives way because what is architecture in the shack, and he basically falls into the basement. And turns out that Great Uncle Ford also really likes Dungeons, Dungeons, and more dungeons because this This is D&D with the nerdy factor amped to probably 3,000, somewhere in that area, with the 38-sided dice, and the wizard is named after math and can only be defeated. What is in the cider? Can only be defeated by certain prime numbers between this number and that. It's very, very specific and very, very, if you're into it, you're really super into it, and if you're not, it's incomprehensible. It's very much playing up the super ridiculous nerd aspect of D&D. And so they get into it, they take over essentially the living room, which Mabel and Grunkle Stan are not super happy because it's the season finale of Duck-tective.
Which, even though it's a kid's show,
it has some good mystery elements and humor that goes over children's heads. Lampshade? Someone give me a lampshade. Yeah. Super, super self-aware here, and the team well knows it.
Yeah,
so they accidentally wind up rolling an infinity-sided dice, which keeps changing.
Which is, illegal in 9,000 dimensions?
9,000 dimensions. It's over 9,000. Which Ford had explained earlier, you don't want to roll it because literally anything can happen. It can cause our faces to melt off. It can turn everything inside out. Or you could just roll an 8. Did you find out?
Yeah, it is him. It is Weird Al Yankovic. It's Rekgar.
It's Rekgar. So the infinity-sided dice accidentally gets rolled by Grunkle Stan, who throws the whole dice bag, which why would you keep that in your dice bag if it's that dangerous?
Made a point of keeping it in a very special box.
In a cheap plastic case, by his own words. Wow. So it gets rolled, and of course it's the nice little thing that brings the game to life! So we have the math magician, whose name I cannot remember for the life of me.
Probabilitor, I think is what it was.
Holy shit, I think you're right.
It just, on the Gravity Falls wiki, it's just Lunatic Wizard, but I'm pretty sure he said his name was Probabilitor.
Or something like that. And it brings an orc and a griffin and a hot elf.
I like that's actually his name.
Hot elf! Okay, sure. And they essentially kidnap Dipper and Ford. Like, we're gonna eat your brains to make me smarter. Like, alright? That's a little messed up.
No, that's the first time I've seen at least in a kid's show, a non-zombie want to eat brains.
I don't know. I mean, I watched Inuyasha.
I watched Hannibal. Not the show.
Hannibal is not a kid's show.
The movie Hannibal. The movie Hannibal. And that's the last time I remember seeing anybody actually eat brains.
Alright, so...
But we got step by step with the grill and everything.
So we have to go save them, we have to go save them. Okay, we'll go save them. Grunkle Stan is not super up for this because guess who's still not getting along with his brother? So they go out to save them, and it's, oh, well, you have to play Dungeons and Dungeons and more dungeons in real life against me, the wizard! And it, basically a very hasty explanation of, yeah, you roll the dice, but you also have to make things up. And honestly, this latter part is how more of my campaigns go. Because we definitely had, it was Besom, it wasn't D&D, and therefore we had it kind of set in modern times. We definitely had... It's basically anime D&D. Training wheels.
That's adorable.
Yeah, that's how we got started. It's a lot easier to figure out. Training wheels. We definitely had a moment where my friend's character managed to set an entire gas station on fire and explode it while everyone else was fighting zombies. I don't know how she got that far off the rails, but she did. And we never had a follow-up session because I could not for the life of me figure out how to get her character out of prison. So, the latter half of this episode with the making up flaming swords and more giant flaming swords and death muffins and the shield of shield, that's more how campaigns usually go. You have your stuff, you're trying to figure out what to do, and usually you've come up with something where the DM is like, I did not plan for this. Oh my god, what do I do now? What? It's fun to break your DM. It's not a good plan, but it's fun when it happens.
But yeah, this episode, the only issue I think I have with this episode is that it is a little bit predictable.
Oh yeah.
But
totally.
considering how much how heavy the last episode was, and I know we've had to wait for a little bit, but considering how heavy the last episode was, it was really nice to get something where Weird Al could be a interdimensional wizard.
Yeah. And we need the character development, to be honest, because we still have Mabel worrying about growing apart from Dipper, and we still have Stan and Ford who are very, very much at odds. And this is something where they kind of start learning to meet halfway. They start talking to each other, and it's definitely not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction. Yeah. And we also have Grunkle Stan telling Dipper, you know, if you want to talk with my brother or hang out with him, I won't get in your way, because he very much was beforehand. Because surprise, surprise, Ford is into some super dangerous stuff.
Yeah, and I also will say that I appreciated that when the creature he trapped at the beginning got free, that they played it off as a joke as opposed to, oh no, it got free and it's running, you know, it's like Chop Shot, righty, for those of you who watch Transformers Robots in Disguise, that ran off.
Fire.
Yeah, Chekhov's gun, and then when it came back, it was
nothing.
A little uneventful.
Super uneventful.
So I was
uneventful, but he certainly was not a big part of the plot. Anyway,
but yeah, I really
it's a good thing that was a one-off establishing monster and not a big part of our plot.
And I know we talked about J.K. Simmons' voice work on the last vlog, but hearing J.K. Simmons' voice, voicing a character who's just going nuts over essentially Dungeons and Dragons, it's just very endearing.
It is pretty wonderful. This episode was just a lot of fun. I had a blast.
Yeah,
Weird Al, Hot Elf.
Hot Elf.
Excel suit, whatever.
Poor Grenda.
I'm gonna cry. Excel suit, whatever. Okay.
What are the odds? I loved the meta commentary. I loved the fantasy stuff. I love when Mabel's imagination gets to come to life, because the last time we saw this was in the Dream episode with Philip. So it's really, anytime we get to see the thoughts in her head actually manifest, that's always really special.
Death muffins.
Death muffins.
Death muffins. And did you notice they had the muffins afterwards?
I know, I missed that.
Yeah, the muffins afterwards. Mabel's just eating one. And it was such a great episode. It had a lot of fun little jokes. It had, if you played D&D, it's absolutely hilarious, some of the things they nod to. And even if you haven't, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, no.
You don't have to understand D&D to get this episode. But if you do, it's a whole extra layer of, yep, I understood that reference.
Again, I probably my favorite line was like you know this is created by nerds when charisma is considered a fantasy status. And again,
and that's just one of those.
It just reminds me, like I said, a lot of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode, that it's very similar. You don't have to watch D&D to enjoy it. And I liked the nods towards the LARPing, and the jabs at nerds like myself who are like, oh yeah, I'm totally into nerd things, but not that nerd thing. The jab, because we have Seuss, who is essentially a LARPer. I can't remember the actual...
Because the acronym is ridiculous. It's like 8 words.
They do something way nerdier than just playing the board game version. They actually go out and create cardboard stuff like the Knights of Badassdom. Only it's not that.
I actually do have friends who LARP. It's pretty impressive.
Oh no, for the people who like really do their costumes and stuff like that, but not like the cardboard cutout stuff that...
well, everyone starts somewhere.
I'm a fortress!
Not there. That's not a good place to start. But no, actual LARPers will definitely go for character development over sessions and whatnot. They get into it, and yeah.
No,
so the only loving nods.
The only commentary I'm making is that the only commentary I'm making on that is that you have somebody doing something equally as nerdy, but will shun the other thing, and it's like, dude, this is the pot calling the kettle black. So again, it's one of those things where I recognize it in myself. I'm like, yeah, I'm that kind of nerd. That will be like, no, not me. I'm not associated with that, but. It's like, but you're still, don't pretend like you're cool, because you're not.
I am eventually going to get you into a session. We have a Dresden Files themed one that's going to start up soon.
Not happening. Anyway.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Anyway.
It'll be a thing.
But
you finally get to watch Duck Detective after all is said and done, and then it turns out that Duck Detective has a twin. He had a twin brother all along? What a ripoff. Oh, I called that like a year ago.
Probably there, like I said, some really good meta commentary in this episode via Duck Detective, and that one was fabulous because, again, we are in the wake of having all of those answers given to us a couple weeks ago. So, like...
And the sheer amount of people coming out of the revelation that Ford exists screaming, I knew it!
I called it, which I remember after the end of season 1 and when you're just waiting for season 2, going through the internet and just digging for anything that you can find. And so many people did call it. And yeah,
Alex Hirsch was impressed with the number of people who called it.
I mean, it's kind of, we were doing the Red versus Blue panel earlier today, and I know that we've talked to the creator of that, well, not the creator, but the current writer of that show. And I think for like most shows on nowadays that do have a dedicated internet following, when there is a mystery element,
they will definitely troll the Tumblr tags and the Twitter hashtags and whatnot and be like...
They do that, and as far as I can tell, they're all very impressed by the crowdsourcing ability of the internet to put together puzzle pieces and to be able to decipher clues, figure things out. It's really impressive what the internet can come together and do when they're passionate about something.
Well, yeah, nobody will notice everything, but everybody will notice something.
Exactly. And actually, that was a plot point in an anime called Eden of the East, where basically this no spoilers, but there was this cataclysmic thing happening. So our protagonist is like, all of you, you're smart, figure it out. That's basically what happened.
Together.
And it worked, but that's a different show anyway. But yeah, this show really lends itself to that kind of crowdsourcing, and the show knows it, and they pay attention, and that's why we get comments like the ones that we got in this episode. And
which
why
season 2
beautiful. And again, 100% why season 2
is taking so dang long.
Is taking long, but also why it's at the quality that it is, why it's going at the pace that it is, because I think you've brought up multiple times before that they took feedback from,
after
their
season
fans.
1. They polled the fans and says, what do you want? What do you not want? What are you into? And to a T, just about everyone said, we want more really, really scary stuff. And for the love of God, cut it out with the Dipper and Wendy.
Maybe I should start obsessing over Wendy again.
That was pretty dang funny.
That was pretty great. Well, I guess that kind of wraps it up for this episode. There's not a whole lot. Oh, no, there is one more thing. Great Uncle Ford has revealed to Dipper...
Oh my gosh, yes.
This is like the biggest plot point in the episode. Everything else was fantasy fluff.
Chekhov's dimensional rift.
But yeah, that he has contained the dimensional rift, disassembled the portal because it's dangerous, but that there is now a rift in time and space. He's got it contained for now, but he has to keep it a secret from Mabel and Grunkle Stan. And again, like you said, it's
keep it a secret from literally everybody you trust. It's like, be like me. No, honey.
Which you can definitely see that with Ford there, the rift between Dipper and Mabel is a lot more apparent. Same with the rift between Grunkle Stan and Ford, as well as Dipper, because it's very clear which twin corresponds with which twin. So Mabel and Grunkle Stan are probably going to bond more and more as Ford and Dipper bond more and more.
Well, and Dipper did make the point that, I want to hang out with Great Uncle Ford. He doesn't make fun of me like you and Grunkle Stan do.
Which, I also want to make a point about that, because I don't know if you guys remember, but in the Shrinking and Growing episode, where both he and Mabel get shrunk by Gideon when they use the crystal perspective, that one. When they both get shrunk in that episode, it was a very similar thing. Mabel's teasing of Dipper, basically prompted him to go on this quest, and it basically caused the whole thing to happen. But the whole reasoning behind that was because Mabel was just so happy to have a one-up on Dipper because he was constantly beating her at everything. And so she was just really happy to have something, a one-up on him, and so was really hammering that home. And it's kind of similar, I want to say, in this circumstance. It's like, he's making me feel dumb right now, talking about grids and math and everything like that. I'm going to make fun of him because he's making me feel dumb, even though that's not like what's going through their minds intentionally. That's the reflex. So...
Well, and Grunkle Stan is 90% of the time gonna come down on Mabel's side just because they're like-minded.
Exactly, and he's a lot more callous about it.
Yeah.
So with Dipper seeing it as an attack on his person and what he likes and taking it very personally, what he probably doesn't realize is that it's a defense mechanism on Mabel's part. And that's, on the one hand, both sides are 100% understandable. On the other hand, it's just kind of like...
this is not going to go well. Please do not take an example from the grumpy old men in the house.
Yeah, no, they're not good role models.
No.
But apart
so we have a dimensional rift to contend to that's supposed to be a secret, and I think we're all still waiting for Bill to come back around.
Yeah, he hasn't shown up since the puppet episode.
Bill-shaped crop circle in the Comic-Con sizzle reel.
That can't be good.
Bill-shaped crop circle. And Stanford, God, Dipper reading something called the Cipher File. Just like, stuff's coming, you guys.
Well, and we can guess that the Stan Pines Bill was referring to was Stanford, not Stan Lee.
Yeah.
So I always feel weird saying Stan Lee because it sounds like Stan Lee.
Yeah, Grunkle Stan.
Emphasis on the wrong syllable, etc., etc. Anyway, I think that just about covers it for this episode.
For the most part.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Not particularly.
Yeah, no, because we talked about character development, ongoing mystery. Yeah, no.
D&D jokes.
A lot of D&D jokes.
Bless.
A lot of really good stuff in this episode.
And even a crack about how they tried to make everything rad in the 90s.
That was brilliant.
That
I loved the
painful.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air text. I love that you can tell that the people who make this show grew up in the 80s and 90s.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's such a treat watching the show. Anyway, I guess that just about does it. Do you know when the next episode is going to air?
I feel like 2 weeks or a week.
Let's hope it's not too long.
We got some time.
Let's hope it's not too long, but we will be hopefully.
I know we're getting 2 episodes this month.
Hopefully we will.
2 weeks.
There's a lot of traveling going on this month, so hopefully we will get it to you guys on time.
At some point.
Maybe. We will see. Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you all next time.